Joining me now with more tonight's Power Panel. Pete Hegseth is an Iraq and Afghanistan combat war vet and CEO of Concerned Veterans for America. Monica Crowley served as a foreign policy assistant to President Nixon, and Bernard Whitman is a Democratic pollster. Monica's also a Fox News contributor. So this is an interesting dust-up because the woman, the cancer fighter, is not happy with the Kellers, and nor are the people who follow her every tweet on her blog and on Twitter. Bernard, your thoughts on it?
You know, I don't think this is Chris Christie-style bullying, but I think that what it says is, in our real-time, reality-obsessed culture, this is going to be the new normal. And I think that it shows that it struck a chord. People are really reacting to it in a very raw way. And I think, number one, we have to point out and applaud Lisa Adams for her bravery, for her candor, and for her honesty. I think the problem is that the Kellers' 1-2 punch makes it seem like they're ganging up, makes it seem like they're bullying her, makes it seem like they are really taking issue and both being obsessed with watching her die and also sort of recoiling from it. So I think the combination of their two reactions made it seem that they were criticizing her, and I think it was particularly raw for Bill Keller when he basically said, you know, my father-in-law went away quietly. I think that struck a very raw nerve.
Well, then not only did he say that, and I've read his entire piece, and I've read his wife's entire piece, but he went on to talk about how, she talks about how at Sloan Kettering she has amenities such as the Caring Canines program where the patients get a playful cuddle with visiting dogs. And then he points out neither she, the cancer victim Adams, nor Sloan Kettering would tell me what all this costs and whether it's covered by insurance. Well, what business is that of yours, Bill?
Yeah, right. No, look, Lisa Adams decided to take her battle with cancer public by tweeting what she was going through, and that does invite public comment. But I think what's grated on a lot of people is the fact that first, Ms. Keller writes a piece where she talks about how this might be TMI, too much information, and yet at the same time looks like she's luxuriating in the voyeurism of watching this woman tweet.
Okay, but wait, let me interrupt you here, because isn't she open about that conflict? I mean, she talks about how I feel strange about this conflict.
She does. But then when it was followed up by her husband's column in the New York Times, where it's more of a broader kind of policy, sort of a public health policy statement that, look, in the UK where they have universal health care, people are sort of almost encouraged to die peacefully without, quote, greater cost.
There seems to be a judgment on
Yeah, and it was a very ungracious kind of comment, given the context.
It was inartful for sure, but I can definitely see where they're coming from. They're making a point. The Kellers are coming from, again, I don't necessarily like the tone, but if you look at the context, they couch their comments within a context of respect of every person should have a right to go the way they'd like, and she's doing so more publicly. Lisa certainly doesn't feel respected, but Miss Keller also had a double mastectomy, I believe. So she's gone through this. She's a cancer survivor herself. So to say, hey, I just have a difference of opinion about how the end of life happens, I think is totally legitimate. So maybe it's seen as bullying from two, but Lisa Adams also has a pretty fervent following that has gone back on the Kellers.
She's got 12,000 Twitter followers.
Yeah.
She's in a hospital bed dying of cancer, hopefully not dying, but struggling with cancer. And these two have a huge microphone. And this is part of what Bernard's point was, which is you've got one who writes in The Guardian and another who writes his opinion piece in the New York Times. And what is she supposed to do to get her voice out there? She does not feel respected if you read her Twitter feed.
But she has had an even ground in this discussion in many ways because of the amount of the followers and the way they've reacted to her and the backlash against these two columns. It sort of shows how the world has flattened for someone to be able to push back.
It's opened up a very interesting conversation where, you know, everybody has a right to die the way they want to, and she has certainly chosen a path of fighting. And so she's pushing back on them, saying, don't tell me to die easily or go sort of into that gentle good night.
And he did not say that, but people felt he implied that that would be a better route. It's another, I'll steal the last word on this and say, this is a very difficult subject. People don't want to talk about our own mortality and dying and how we need to do it. And so you get even into this field in any way and people start to get very
And I think we're going to see a lot more of it going forward.
Oh, well, thank you for that, Bernard.